Lady and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the BMX. Today we are joined by a very important guest, and you'll soon find out why she's important. So we met under unusual circumstances. I was doing my little workouts out there, and then she actually felt that I was doing it incorrectly, and she was indeed the divine intervention that I needed. So and she guided me throughout the session, and I felt a bit more useful in what I was doing than I was actually when I was all by myself. So Teressa, welcome to the BMX show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Welcome, Teressa.
And then the other two guys, the usual suspects, welcome guys as well. It's good to have you here again, giving keys. So we're just gonna open it right away. Are you guys okay?
Yes, we are.
All right, let me shoot you with the topic. Teressa, do you have your
thinking hat
sleeves
on?
Tied up?
My sleeves tied up.
Yep.
What on earth? What does that mean?
Okay, so
I'm in short sleeves today,
I can see. All right, so the topic, guys, that we have for today is why are people adverse to evolution, right? They want you to stay the same. How often do you hear your surroundings saying you've changed or we miss the old you, even though the circumstances and the conditions are just no longer the same? I mean, we also experience this in business. When a product undergoes a change as a means of transformation, you first get a lot of pushback before reception. Right, so I'm sure that actually does resonate. I mean, on all facets of life, really.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I suppose, so when you talk about the products, first off, you've got your early adapters, you've got your, people who then, once the early adapters have accepted the product, then they'll look at it and go, how do you put it? And I know that the last part is your laggards, where they kind of like, oh, everyone else is doing it, so okay, now I will do it, type of thing. And if you think about it, when people talk about where the one sentence that you said earlier, which really resonated, was you've changed so much. Like, why have you changed? And or the business has changed. Why did the business change? And if you think about it, everything in life is adapt or die.
Yeah.
Or be left behind, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you look at it and you're going, well, there was an analogy that I was taught many years ago, and I want to share it with you guys, if I may.
Please do.
Yeah, please.
And
Definitely.
it was if you look at a lobster, like I come from Durban, we're by the sea. Most things have got the sea and the sea creatures involved in it in some way or another.
Yeah, the ocean feel.
Yes, and if you take a lobster only grows when it is so uncomfortable and its environment becomes so unbearing that it goes inside a rock and it gets itself and its shell caught inside that rock. And when it comes out, it's now actually in its new shell. So the thing is, we can only grow and adapt and become a better versions of ourselves when we become uncomfortable.
Wow.
So that's why, like, if you're in a situation where you're complacent, you're not growing as a human being. You're not growing mentally, you're not growing physically. So that's why, like, when it comes to the gym stuff as well, that you have to get uncomfortable with those weights and your muscles have to get sore, and then your body grows. But certain sores are good. What was happening with your knee, that was bad.
So if I may ask, was he actually just like bench pressing with the bar instead of
bench pressing with no weights on?
exactly, just the bar?
I was actually doing more weights than I can actually handle.
Yeah, so
don't get it confused.
when I looked at this, I was like,
still outdo the both of yours combined.
Oh, challenge accepted. We're going to video that one. No shame. Brian was actually on the leg extension machine, and like I looked at this, and like I looked at the angle he was in, and he was like lifting up his back, arching it, and like doing the leg extension. I thought to myself, this oak's going to hurt himself, like really. And then when I looked at the weights, I was like, yo, that's a lot of weight. And then when we were chatting, I just said some basically any type of exercises. You have to make sure that you have got your body in almost like if you want to call it like a machine point of view. Okay. So you must always be either in a 90-degree, 45-degree, okay, or a 180. So 180 is flat on your stomach or flat on your back. Okay. 90-degree is sitting so that your back is straight, your hips are underneath your shoulders, and that your knees are above your ankles. Okay. So if you're in that position, when you're doing most of your exercises, you can then, and you'll find after I put you in the right positions, you're like, I can't do the weights anymore.
Yeah, of course. I had to do
so you were cheating, actually. That's the thing.
And the thing is, like, whenever I used to go to the bigger gyms as well, and you'd see people training, you look at it and like going, like, no, how can these guys be training like this? And there's people walking around, but no one stops him to like say, listen, just if you tweak this and this, you'll do your body a million times more justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not injure yourself, because that's the biggest thing with training. You can injure yourself very easily. And your leg extensions with what Brian was doing is one of the most dangerous exercises that you can do, because if it's done wrong, you can injure your patella. You can also tear your leg muscles. It just depends on what you're doing, how you're doing it.
Including your back as well.
Absolutely.
Your lower back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one exercise and it's funny because when you go to the gyms, you never see, like you'll see the guys like doing the big weights and all the rest, but you never see them doing the lower back exercises. And the amount of guys that as they get older, they really battle with it, because they'll do a deadlift or they'll do like a back extension, but they don't do the little ones where like, like a Superman, not the dance like Superman. No, not that one. But more of a, where you just lie down on the ground and you lift your arm up in front of you and you lift your alternate leg. And then what that does is it strengthens your lower back as well as the full spectrum of muscles along your back, so that when you are doing those heavy weights, you've got that support structure. And you'll find the guys are like, I'm going to do crunches, and they'll do all the crunches, but they forget about the lower back.
Teresa, I must actually just intervene.
Of course.
Like you literally talking on dead rocks. These guys have never set foot in any gym. They just don't know what you're talking about.
Although there was a lot of head nodding, so I think you kind of like get it.
Yeah, we'll let Brian slide on this one. You're not here to embarrass him and say that the 10 kgs that he was lifting is nothing. But I'm glad you actually touched base on that, because somehow it actually still takes me back to what Brian was speaking about, the evolution and people changing. And I think one of the things that for me personally, what I kind of disapprove of to some extent is when change happens too rapidly.
Absolutely.
And you actually are not able to digest the differences, and also it's just like too overpowering to some extent. And like you're saying, it could also cause those injuries, while going back to the gym aspect, but other things could also cause some other type of damage. Because if you have like a plug point and you have too much wattage going through, exactly, you blow out everything.
Absolutely.
So whereas if you do it gradually, it actually gives people the time to accept it and also understand what the change is about it, how it will impact them, and so forth.
And if I could take it to business, whereby if change happens too radically, or so like often like you look at something, they call it change management. Yeah. Now, if change management isn't implemented in the right way, you can have major kickback from your staff.
Yes.
You can have it where you could have staff that were happy that now all of a sudden are unhappy. And for businesses, the most expensive thing that can happen to you is your staff turnover.
Yes.
Because you've invested, and Brian, you were talking about this earlier, where companies invest in you, in your abilities and what you can do, and the studies that you've done. And then if there's a change management that happens, then you're like, well, I'm not really, I'm not enjoying working here anymore. And if companies aren't careful about how they implement it, how they introduce it, it's very important that if someone new joined your team, that they get introduced to the team in the right way. that you have those one-on-one conversations, you get to know each other better, but you also have it where you bring the person in and you get them to do almost like a whole team meeting.
Yes.
So that every person has that same or a similar conversation.
Yes.
They understand who you are, where you're coming from, what are your strengths, and then they perhaps potentially also understand why it is that that individual's being put in that position. There's something that I've picked up over the years, and it's amazing on how people judge other people without realizing what their strengths are.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to business.
Yes.
They'll look at it and they'll be like, oh, this guy just comes in here and what, but they don't know that that guy has turned 5 other companies, or that that lady has had, I remember speaking to this one lady, she had over 30,000 global people that were underneath her, but it's because she was the HR for that group. So I was like, 30,000. I'm scared we're like 30. Never mind 30,000. But people often look at it and they go, well, they only see one side of the coin, or they only see that if you took it like a cube, they only see that one side of the cube, and they don't realize all the other experience that person brings with them.
6-dimensional, probably. You can look at it from many different angles. Yeah, no, that's true. It's profound, and I think a lot of times we personally don't think about that. Like, I'm still unhappy about I don't want to actually mention the name, a biscuit brand that changed changed the taste, and I'm like, but why would you do this, guys?
I'll name one for you if I'm allowed to. Rice Krispies. Why did you guys change the original Rice
Snap,
Krispies?
crackle and pop. But
and now it's a vanilla flavored and it's a multi-grain cereal. I'm like, no, but original Rice Krispies. I used to make like Rice Krispie. You remember like those little
sweets,
squares?
yes, exactly.
You can't do those anymore.
It's painful. So there's just certain things that
and guess
should
what?
not change.
Ek hoor vir jou.
but
I hear you.
But I mean, even with that, Menke, like we said here earlier on, that change is very uncomfortable as well, right? And sometimes even with time on your side to process, it can still be uncomfortable, right?
True.
And just let's I just want to loop X in as well. Just think of a relationship, for instance. If at one point, right, you were used to maybe, let's say, going out a lot, right? And you were just out there, and then you go through a process of transition, right? Where you try to adapt to maybe the new changes now. Maybe you no longer stay in the same environment. Maybe you've moved into a new, different environment altogether, and you see the way things are done in this environment, right? So that environment is going to require you to show up as a different person, right? So even like the way you allocate your finances might even change. And then the partner might look at you and say, I miss the old you. We used to go out a lot, but now the conditions don't allow us to. Maybe now we've actually taken up on more important matters such as investments and all of that, right? So it requires...
Or bond.
Or anything, right? Or more responsibilities for that matter,
Yeah.
but people still want us to show up the same, right? If I used to go out 4 times a week, the new responsibilities only limit me to 1 go out a week.
I beat you. I used to go out about 6 times a week.
Wow.
There was every night, I think, except for a Monday night, where there was either a ladies' night, a students' night, Pooza Thursday, hump day. Like there was any and every reason to go out with the girls type of thing and go dancing. But these days with the good old COVID, none of us can go dancing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying there, and it's like as we're getting older as well, if you think about it, it's like you go, well, we used to be like, okay, right, Friday night, okay, awesome, okay, so we got the wages, and okay, cool, lekker, we're gonna go here first, have a couple of drinks, and then we're gonna go party, and then like now you, as you say, you get older, and you're going, okay, well, I need to invest. Like we want to have children, so we need to make sure that we've got enough money invested and saved up, because nappies are expensive. Getting myself in trouble for that.
X-Men, talk to us, man.
Are you very
No,
quiet?
so I'm actually listening to
digesting
everything and trying
It's
to
like that, actually.
trying to fit in now. So basically, if I look at it also holistically, if I can put it, the whole pandemic came. You've mentioned things changed so fast, and look what happened with the pandemic. Things changed fast, and that was for, that's the economy, our lifestyles, and everything has changed. And we saw that at one point we were all uncomfortable because here we hit by a pandemic, and we didn't know anything about this whole virus. And now they're telling us you can't visit your friends, you can't go to work, things like that. All those things that obviously changed.
And we social beings.
We social beings, and I think if we look at nature as well, I think this whole pandemic also came so fast, and it means that we also need to move with time. As much as it happened so fast, we look at business decisions as well, where businesses needs to think out of the box now.
Yeah.
In terms of getting their customers, revenue, and so forth. And yeah, like, I don't know, we just need to know what we're going to do about it. Like, it is a journey. And yeah.
Actually, you mentioned something that I really, really appreciate, and I just want to drill on it as well. I've been like one of the biggest advocates for working from home for a long time, since Michael Jackson was making grown-ass men faint in front of him when he performs. And I can also recall the pushback, like I think there were like a plethora of reasons why we can't do it, right? And
that was something I want to definitely add on to that for you as well.
For some reason, they seem to overpower like the notion that we were actually forwarding, right? We're advancing. But going back to your point about the pandemic, look at how now the unforeseen circumstances have had people to actually have forcefully had people to adjust to the new ways, right?
Yeah.
And had we been able to proactively act on these things while they were there, maybe we would have been even more prepared, because I can tell you right now, some changes actually came with a loss of revenue, right? Because they were so radical that people never really prepared for them, or in the correct manner. When you're doing something because of the conditions that actually force you to do it, it's not the same as when you actually proactively do something. So I'm glad you mentioned that point.
So to add on to what you're saying there, so something that accelerated exceptionally in South Africa was and we all spoke about, working from home, yet laptops. There was the biggest shortage globally on laptops because everybody had to work from home.
Yeah.
None of the IT developing or what's the right words for it, for the hardware equipment, RT, more than me.
Yeah, you can call it that.
Okay. Well, none of them had the capacity to make as much as what was needed.
Yeah.
And I mean, even this year.
So the demand was actually far surpassing the supply.
Yes, and the cost, the prices that we were paying for laptops just to get for people to work from home was ridiculous. But it's like with everything in life, if there is a high demand, there's going to be a price hike on it. So high demand and your low supply dictates what the prices are going to be. Absolutely. And I mean, and whereas like something, for instance, a long time ago, before the pandemic came along, countries like England and Europe, they were advocating for working from home for several reasons. And one of them was to do away with brick and mortar, so that you don't have to be confined to an office, but also it's so much cheaper.
Yes.
If you take, and I've seen this after the whole pandemic, where I've seen some of my clients who were in these massive big buildings have now all gone downsized and they are in much smaller buildings with most of their staff working from home, and then they do online online meetings versus having these huge big buildings, because people realize that you don't actually need all of that to keep your business going. And I think one of the things that, like, with companies in South Africa, and I don't know, I'm not speaking for the rest of the world, but I do know from when we talk about leadership styles and management styles and whatnot, that a lot of companies were very nervous about letting people work from home because it's letting go.
Yes.
It's giving them the reins and saying, okay, right, off you go. You're going to be working from home. But like, there would be comments that, and I would hear it via the grapevine where people were like, oh, so-and-so is just at the swimming pool. And you're like, no, have you seen how much work that person's been doing? I'm online at 3 a.m. and I can see they online at 3 a.m. And then you'll see during the day that everyone's also online and everyone is working, because if no one was, would a business still be standing?
Nope.
Yeah. So people need to get over that whole thing of where they assume that they can't trust their people to work from home. Because at the end of the day, if they weren't, your business will not be flourishing. Your accounts will not be paid. Your sales will not be done. Your sales orders will not be processed. So and if you've got a marketing team, you won't have anything going on online, because if they weren't working, so who are the guys working then? Do we have little like gremlins
Bots.
going and on bots? Do we have bots going on doing the work? So that was something that especially during the whole COVID thing, that I picked up a lot of, and it wasn't just with one business or two businesses, it was across the board. And the thing is, like, for the people though, there would be, like I said, there'll be some jokes passed and everyone's like, ha ha, but it actually hurt them. It in their soul, they were like, come to me like afterwards, they were like, do people really think that I'm not working? Do they not understand that I work longer hours when I'm at home compared to when I'm in the office? When I'm in the office, I can close my door, lock it, and leave, and then there's no more work. When I'm at home, I've got a baby who's crying, and then I've got to go and sort them out. Or I still remember, so this is a bit of a graphic one. I had a client that was on the phone with me, and we were trying to get some stuff sorted out. They were part of the essential services. They were making devices for masks. And next thing I hear in the background going, honey, it's your turn. It's a number 2 in the nappy. And the Oaker's on the phone with me. And he gives his phone to his wife. And he just says, I'm so sorry, but my wife will be able to sort out the rest. And I'm like, she goes, I'm so sorry about that. I was like, don't even worry. I had a cat hawk up a hairball while I was on a conference call with clients and like overseas type of thing. So yeah, it's... That whole trust thing.
Yeah, but which is also coming back to what we're saying about them, perhaps a company is not willing to change, because that's exactly it. Like, although it's a trust matter, but it's a change matter as well, because we also don't trust if a car manufacturer changes the way the previous version looked, and you're like, I don't trust if this is safe enough. I don't trust the way how efficient will it be in terms of fuel consumption and so forth.
Well, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but what a very good example is, look what happened with a very famous milk brand when they changed the color of their bottle. They went from a normal white bottle to a blue bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And people were like, I ain't buying that, because they didn't recognize it. They didn't understand it. But apparently there was some, I'd stand to be corrected on this, but apparently there was some type of bacteria that could grow in milk that would make it go blue. Which was why I was like, when people saw the color, they were just like, not buying that.
It may be the bacteria that's changing the bottle as well.
Exactly. But a lot of brands have also got to be so careful when they do even a small brand change. People can go, well, I'm used to buying a maroon color with a little bit of white. I don't know this white with maroon. And it's the same product.
You're actually telling the truth, because, I've actually seen, like, with Red Bull, right? They've kind of like changed their look now, but I always just go past it.
Did they?
Yeah,
I didn't
they
even
have
know.
some. Well, not really. Like they've rebranded. They actually have new flavors, right? But like even those flavors actually ate the same course. But I just passed them, thinking, well, it's not Red Bull because I'm not seeing the bull that's red and blue and all of that. So I passed it. So that's what change can actually bring. I mean, we've all expressed our varying degrees of frustration on many other things, but I mean, change is a necessity,
Absolutely.
right? We can all agree on that, whether really it's accepted or rejected, but it is a necessity.
Well, if you think about, we were talking about with the companies where you were saying about change, but then also about trust.
Yes.
Eventually, this is where the laggards come on.
Yes.
People accept that, well, we have to change.
Yeah.
They don't want to, but they have to.
Yeah.
And it's like that in relationships as well.
Yeah, true.
So we take it back to like the personal side of things.
Yeah.
Where you look at a relationship and you go, well, this person has changed, but I love them with all my heart, and I'm going to have to accept that change. Because if they feel so passionately about something, or about maybe it's a new career that they're wanting to do,
Maybe it's an illness,
yes,
trade disease, people is cancer and all those type of things that could result in people being frail, all those things. It could affect you, but I mean, it's a change that unfortunately happened, and it happens. So to your point, it's important for us to be able to be mindful of those things, and be mindful that a day, like, do we understand that a day has to go through so many changes? Each second the sun is in a different position. That's a change.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Without knowing it, the earth rotating around its axis each year, like, there's so many things. We understand change is important and it's inevitable, but there's just some things, guys, like I wish I could just plead to all these companies. Actually, I feel like I should get a Twitter account, that, to just tweet certain people, not to fight, just to ask, guys, please, can we have the old recipe back?
Like Milo needs the old recipe back. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, just saying.
Like, there's just so many things. It's like, but
So you're
don't
talking about a
change.
scenario now where change is like diametrically opposed.
Yeah, and not necessarily because you're just uncomfortable with the change. Like, you've tasted the
It
products,
just
or you've-
tastes better, the old one.
exactly.
I
Or
know
you've driven
that
in
feeling.
like with the automotive industry, we understand the importance of moving to electric and all those type of things. We know global warming is a real issue, and we support that. But there's certain things that you just don't necessarily have to change. Like, I mean, look at, I think Ford released
We
a
need
new.
you to weigh in here as well, huh? He's too quiet in the corner.
There's so many things that he's digesting now. I know he'll have a lot to say.
Yeah.
When I look at Ford's new I think it's the F-150 or something like that. It's almost exactly the same as the petrol version, the electric version. I'm
Okay.
like, okay, that is because it's a loved bucky, the shape and all those type of things. So don't change it to look all futuristic when the current recipe is
Works.
exactly. And there's a reason why it works that way. It's not because it's not just a nostalgic thing. It's just a matter of it works. So let's not break things that do not work.
Right.
Like, there's other things, like, I mean, Tesla with the futuristic looks and all those other brands that have those, we appreciate that as well, because the differences actually are needed. You get to see, I mean, the absence of change will actually will have us stagnant. We wouldn't be able to
it
move.
stops progress.
Exactly. So we definitely accept and welcome it. But I think there's just certain things that, guys, please, can we bring the same old flavors back? The baker's man and all those people bring.
Engage you though.
I'll
because
get my point
I
across.
think I like what Maurice just said, because sometimes you kind of get the feeling that, like, some companies or even some people are just changing just for the sake of changing.
Exactly.
Or because there's a new in thing out there, right?
I hear you.
That's shaping a certain direction, and then so they actually kind of forced in there. It's like, think of a famous pizza restaurant that's known for its pizza.
Yes.
It's lovely pizza. And then one day they just decide that, you know what, we're not just gonna make pizza, we're gonna make ribs as well. Something completely unrelated to what they are offering, right?
And it's not part of their specialities. It's not
And it's
something
not
that they're
part-
really familiar
exactly.
with. Yes.
But I have a question. What do
Yes.
their ribs taste like?
But that's my point, is that it's not something they're really familiar with. So they end up like spoiling. And then it doesn't actually
Gets
add
me.
value to the actual brand.
You
Okay.
echoed my sentiment exactly the same way that I
Yeah.
actually intended it.
Mm.
So what do you think then,
Can-
Mr. X-Men?
Can I also add to that something
Add.
totally different? It takes me again back to hip hop. Now I know we always on hip hop talk,
Yeah.
but it just happens that way, guys. So please forgive us. Like
Hey, I want to
remember-
learn how to do some hip hop dancing. So if we got like some of that going, yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, we'll clear the table here, and you can show us some moves. I'm
No,
sure
not
Brian
me.
needs it.
You show me some
Oh.
moves.
I need to see the money on the table first.
Negotiations.
I remember there was this one song, "Death to Autotune" or "Death to Autotune."
Yeah.
How does that go?
And-
Can you sing it?
No, I know he can, but I think maybe he'd prefer to do it offline.
Okay. I think I know where you're going.
There's been a change in the industry. Certain people were rapping or speaking or singing using different mechanisms to enhance or to change or distort the sound of the actual music, when other people prefer to keep it original, true to
Original,
their,
yeah,
to,
their
to
voice.
their
So like a
voice.
Fergalicious.
Definition makes the boys go loco, but let's not talk about that. So yeah,
That's my jam.
so I think that's also an importance to the change aspect, which I think X-Men can also elaborate on, and the preference of having or not having all those other elements that could actually distort the original feeling and
Substance.
vibe to the actual song. Yeah.
Well, guys,
All eyes are on you.
all eyes on me. No, well, change is good, and I think I battle with a lot of change. But I think the example you've given with the fish, the
The
Lobster.
lobster,
the lobster. Yeah, lobster, crayfish,
Well,
both of them
yeah.
taste amazing.
So with the lobster, I think that's for me as well. If I'm put in to if I'm in a situation, difficult situation, I tend to adapt to that situation, but I need to be in a corner. I love my comfort zone, which of
Okay.
course that's also dangerous. And I like when you mention what about friends. Friends would obviously, when once growing up with people, you'd find people you'll had the same outlook in life, right? However, at one certain point you probably just decided, look, that's not what I want to do with
Yeah.
my life, and I need to branch off a different way. And that's where we get with friends and family as well, and people that actually knows you. If they see a different part of you, they will tell you that you've
I-
changed.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
So, like, if you, you've obviously got to a point in your life as well where you've decided, you know what, I'm not going to go clubbing as much as I used to, or whatever it is. Like, there's obviously something that you've recently decided that you wanted to change on.
Yeah.
And what has the support been like? Now I sound like a psychologist.
And how does that make you feel?
How does that make
Well,
you feel?
well, at first it was a bit difficult, with my friends around me. They wouldn't believe that. Let's say because I stopped drinking, they didn't actually believe that I stopped drinking, and because I stopped drinking, they probably thought that
You were pregnant.
They probably thought I'm better than them. However,
Okay.
I still, that was just a decision on my own. I felt that that's the best decision that I can make for myself.
Absolutely.
However, I would still chill with them. But then at some point, I actually, if I can say, how do I put this? I actually distance myself from them. Like, I normally, I do visit them, I do greet them, we do chat, but that's it. I want something different for my life.
So you've
And you found-
you've grew past that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's
you
it.
outgrow
You
outgrown,
you
yeah.
outgrow people.
And
yeah.
people outgrow you as well.
True. Very
I mean,
true.
we spoke about that on our the
Friendship.
friendship episode as well.
Yeah.
We always come back to it because it's something that's very true.
Well, it's like we were saying in the very beginning. We are social beings, and
Exactly.
we do depend on. Well, not need to depend on, but we work with, and I suppose it does depend on our friends as well at some point, and they do
Definitely.
depend on you as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But there is certain circumstances. I remember a couple of years ago, my friends, they would go out for these lavishly expensive dinners. They were earning a mint more than what I was. So, and I used to love going out with them.
Retirement.
But yeah, exactly. Retirement, definitely. But it's like, I would love going out with them to go dancing afterwards, but they would get so upset with me because I wouldn't go to all these lavish dinners. Like I would go for the birthday, or I'd go for the, like for a celebration, but I wouldn't go for the every Friday night. They would go for these really expensive dinners.
Yeah.
And eventually got to a stage of where, like I said to my friend, and I sat down, I spoke to her, and then I spoke to, because then another one came through and also said, hey, listen, why aren't you? And I just said to them, I've got different priorities, and I said to them right now, and then I was actually studying my personal training. I said, right now, my money, I have to pay for my studies. So it's, you guys will have all the money that you've obviously earned, and it's at full exposure to you, but mine is going into actually studying. So I can't just go and spend crazy amounts of money. I mean, I have one drink and I'm like, woohoo! So yeah, I don't need to.
Yeah.
But those friends, I actually end up outgrowing completely. And at one stage I thought to myself, that's really sad, because we were good friends at one point. But there was an expectation on, like, if you went out with them, that you would, and I wasn't a smoker, and these guys would smoke heavily, and eventually like, I'd ask them politely, like, listen, do you guys mind smoking either outside or because I kept moving away and they kept following me, and I'm like, I'm trying to get away from the cigarette because I kept getting chest infections, and it was because I was around that all the time. And then also I remember the one make a comment saying to me, well, if I don't see you at least 3 times a week, then we're not friends. And I'm like, I'm studying, I'm working full time. I don't even see my boyfriend that I was dating back then as much as that. I'm like, how on earth am I meant to see you 3 times a week? And it's like what you're saying. You get to a point of where you're like, is this a healthy relationship? Is it,
Toxic?
Yes, exactly.
And also remember, to inspire change doesn't mean actually you must actually encourage it or force it on anyone. Like, if you can change yourself, then that's it.
That's how we change the world.
Yeah. So
You change here first, and if you want to see something positive or amazing happen, you start it from you first, and how you emulate yourself to the world, how you speak to people. Wow. I only had a sip of that. How you speak to people, and then how you relate to them. And then that's how the world will, kindness.
Yeah, Kandi. Then you say, be the change you want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
But, it seems like I'm the only one who's coming with terrible experiences. But
Bring it.
I am just one, especially with food. Guys, like, everybody
But you're
knows
so
me
tiny.
around this table, but that's why, because there's like a handful of places that I would eat, and a handful of things that I would eat from those places. So
I have one that I have to add, and I hope McDonald's is listening.
yes,
Apple pie, please bring it back.
McDonald's.
Jackal's Creek Corner,
Yeah.
the McDonald's there.
Yes.
I did a review on Google, and they were like, please contact us. We want to know what your experience was. And I'm like, but I wrote there, I wanted an apple pie. And they only had like this,
They're not
like a
serving.
chocolate pie thing. It was horrible. But the apple pie, that there's just something about it that it's soothing. So if you're not feeling so well, it's my McDonald's apple pie that I go to. And then they didn't have it.
I'm sure after this episode, Ronald McDonald will be watching.
Woohoo! Vote for Ronald.
But yeah, with me and food, we are best buddies but worst enemies as well. And at home we discuss this constantly. Like, if the food was spectacular and made a specific way today, we note it down that if ever we have to refer to the last time, it should be this time.
Oh, I
So,
see.
so
I hear you. I hear
so
you.
we then keep a unofficial catalog or diary noting of this event, and we're like, okay, the food has to be exactly how it. So just remember the recipe, the method, and all those type of things.
It's the method.
Yes.
So that's something that that we take for granted. You know, like how you're saying with change, some people just want to change now, type of thing, like a magic wand. Like, okay, change is done, everyone's accepted, cool, lacquer. It's all got to do with the process of it.
True.
So it's like when you're cooking,
Yes.
there's a certain way that you've got to first brown those onions,
Yes.
and then you put the garlic, and then you add a little bit of the ginger. Am I making you guys hungry yet?
No, we're still waiting for the main ingredients.
Chicken, beef, lambs. But it's, if you don't brown that onion first, you don't get that flavor.
Yes.
And I'm one for, when it comes to food, it has to be about the flavor. My husband, quantity.
Yes.
But when it comes down to food, and even like drinks or cocktails or fruit juices or any of that, it's all about the flavor. And when we're talking about processes, there was something that I tried yesterday for the first time in a very long time, was taking a golf club, swinging it and whacking the ball. And there was a little trick that the gent taught me, and it was where you take the golf club, you put it behind your back, and you actually like straighten your vertebra, and then you bend, like you got to pivot
Okay.
before you take the shot. And you won't flip and believe it, I'll send you a video. I hit the ball. And I actually did it really well.
Okay.
So now I'm
the
like,
method.
next time I see those golfers slicing and dicing on the course here,
You will show them
yeah,
a
I'm gonna be like, can I show you guys something quickly?
Yeah.
But it's a process.
Yeah.
True.
Making bread,
Yeah.
it's a process. You've got to let that yeast and the dough rise.
Yes.
Yeah, and
X-Man.
and you mentioned about the process, and the actual journey is within that process. You know, the fun is within that process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we don't understand, it's not what do we say, a once-off fixed thing. No,
Or an overnight.
yeah, an
Yes.
overnight fixed thing. It's a process, you
I have
know,
a
for
question.
change to take place.
So I have a question for all you guys. When is it that an overnight fix actually works? Other than super glue or duct tape?
And cement.
Well, okay, yeah, that does take some time to cure and do its thing. Yeah, that could work overnight. But like, if you think about something in your life where you've needed to make a change, either for yourself or your family or someone who is close to you, when has it actually been that it's an actual, like, where it's an overnight fix?
Okay, I can think of one. People
Tell us.
often think I'm older than what I seem, or they're older than they think I'm older than what I am. Yeah. So
the beard.
exactly.
It's
So
the
when
beard.
I chop that off, and they're like, "Oh, wow, we haven't seen you around here. You new around this place."
Also, so you chop the beard to kind of like put that into test, right?
Well, not necessarily.
Also, like the next time they saw you, they actually
were
thought,
surprised.
okay, it's a
Yeah.
different person.
Well, not.
Believe it or
can't-
not, I had both.
I still saw you without your beard, and I still thought you were 50.
No, oh, burn.
Yeah, like you see, with me, I'm a person that's constantly evolving in whatever I do. I don't know, like I seem to break away from routine all the time, and if I have to repeat something all over again, I kind of get bored. Right? So I would say I'm more proactive. I'll tell you a story. So we play football, obviously you guys know about it, right? The one thing
Even when you're not supposed to be doing it because you got a sore knee.
the one thing that you will never find from me is having the same goal as last week, right? So if last week the goal was you need to score goals, maybe this amount of goals, right? And I'm able to achieve that, the following week I'm on a different I'm on a different agenda altogether, right? I'm thinking about other things, and people will be like, why don't you go and score goals? I'm like, I don't want to score goals today. I want to do other things. And so people tend to actually push back because they know that you are so good at doing that, right? But in so doing, what they don't understand is they kind of like box
Box
me
you.
into
Yes.
someone that I don't want. So I want to constantly evolve, because at the end of the day, like, I want to be able to paint a bigger picture, you know. I always see myself as I'm not a finished article yet, right? You know, so I have to constantly put something new, put something new,
Preach
put
it.
something new. And I was, but here's my thing, right? Sometimes I kind of like inadvertently force it on others, right? I did this with my brother because, you know, like, I like to push him to the limit. So I was telling him that, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that, right? So, and because he enjoys being, well, I don't want to say in the box, but he enjoys actually focusing on the same set of goals.
And some people do.
And some people do, but here's me trying to actually recreate another me in another person, not understanding that that person is comfortable being the person that he is. And I'm telling him that, no, do this, but I want to be a complete player. I want to be an embodiment of everything you can get on a soccer player, right? So I want to do everything else that nobody wants to do. But not everyone is in the same wavelength as me, and that's absolutely fine.
Well, they say that everyone vibrates at a different
Frequency.
level.
Yeah.
So it's, and I mean, the whole reason why we are all so different is, can you imagine if we were all the same? Imagine if
boring
you were
would be boring,
identical
yeah.
to your brother. Geez, life would be boring. Never mind that, the idea of change and the idea of evolution, in change or of change, would cease to exist. Sorry, I didn't, the zzz came out there. But the whole idea of being able to be our own individual selves will be gone.
Yeah.
We become, essentially, we'll be robots.
Because we're all the same. We all just, there's no identity. There's no character, individual characteristics.
And how often is it that you guys have also felt where you've been put into a box? I know I was in a box for a number of years where I kept going, I'm not that person. We related,
I've been
but
in
I'm
a
not that
box,
person. A lot of times people used to say to me that I was my sister, and I was always like my sister, and I love my sister to pieces, absolutely. But we are very different. She's more the analytical numbers, etc., and I'm more of the, and you know this, the people wanting to help and like, hey, how's it going? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's very different. But sometimes people do, they put you into those boxes, and it's sometimes very difficult to have a strong enough personality to break out of those boxes. So I can see Mr. X-Man busy like nodding quite a bit on this one, and I know he's busy digesting it as well. So I would love to know from both you guys, like, what type of boxes have you felt that you've been put in?
It's not a box for him, actually. It's a closet.
Is it a closet? Ah.
Let's go.
It's the food closet. Like, everybody knows me, and yeah, like I said earlier, I testified, I confessed, I put it on the table, so it's
I'm a
public
foodie.
knowledge. No, well, I'm a foodie, but also not a foodie at the same time. So yeah, like, it's very confusing. But those who know. There's discussions about food that we have. But
They
just to
knows
add-
you.
Yeah, exactly. Trevor Noah.
They knows you.
To add to what Brian was saying and what you were saying as well, Teresa, the change, not everybody should necessarily follow that same change routine. I'm thinking about like the wheel. Ever since the wheel was invented in some 5,000 BC or something like that, it kind of stayed the same. So imagine everybody was just like, okay, no, we need to just change everything.
The shape of the wheel now.
Exactly.
It needs to be the diamond shape and not
Exactly.
the round shape.
You know,
yeah.
so everybody's just
When
like,
it works, let it work.
that's my point, exactly. But people would just be like, okay, so everybody's changed everything else. Okay, there's only the wheel left. So because everybody's just doing change, let me also do change. The wheel scrapped from it being round. It's now something totally different.
It's a hover vehicle. We don't need wheels anymore.
Wow. Yeah, but then there are still wheels for that's because that's only in the automotive world. What about like the dollies and all those things? We still need wheels on those, no matter how small they are. There's still
Dollies.
wheel-
What's a dolly?
like, you know, those trolley type of things, or those things that they usually like
Oh,
in the
pram.
supermarkets. No, the one that they have in the supermarkets, they usually pull the heavy stuff. Those things. Aren't
Oh,
they
the
dollies?
trolleys.
Yeah, no, the trolleys, but there's also the dollies. You know, the I think it's the right word. You know what I'm talking about. They usually
I
like
think we're going to have to ask Google on this one.
the one that they usually like move the stock from the inventory
Okay,
to
yes.
the shelves.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
Isn't that a forklift?
no,
Forklift.
not the forklift. The
You have to manually pull it.
yes.
Oh, the one you pull behind you. Macro have got them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
But they also do have the forklifts and stuff like that. But I think,
Okay.
yeah, I'll just confirm with Google. But you guys can continue.
That's your
Sorry,
box.
start to make me
I
doubt
think
myself.
Teresa was asking about the boxes that you've been put into.
I don't think I've been put into a box. Not that I can think
Okay, well, is there any
Was
box
there
you've
bubble
put
wrap
yourself?
around it?
of. Eh? No, I don't think so.
So you've never looked at something. Oh, you actually did earlier. You identified yourself as being someone who wants to be in the corner before you accept change. So
Yeah, that's also part. Let me say that's also part of the journey or the process where I'm actually moving out of the corner now.
okay.
I'm getting out of the corner, yeah, and it's a cool process. It's a cool process, yeah.
So what are some of the things that you're doing with your process? Are you comfortable to share? I thought you guys were like interviewing me. It's the other way around here.
Yeah, I'm like, oh. Well, I'm just more out there now. I'm basically, taking more risks. At first I used to play it safe,
Okay.
but now I'm
So
trying
like healthy
to be
risks.
more. Yeah, healthy risk. Yeah.
And what have you maybe recently taken risks on, if I may ask?
It's not. Let's not go there.
You have to
No,
share.
let's not go there, guys. Come on, you're
do we do
putting me
that
on
on
the
the
spot.
on the follow up one?
No, yeah, we'll do it on the follow-up one. Yeah.
We just need a spotlight.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Well, just to add to that,
Just to
they
get-
say another word for dolly is a cart, a trolley, a barrow, hand cart, a wheelbarrow. So it's all
See,
under
so
dolly. Yeah.
So we're learning new words today, definitely. Because I was like dolly, as in like one of those ones like it flashes like its eyes at
Oh,
you, like
Barbie.
a sleeping dolly, like a Barbie. Yeah, that's what I was
He
like.
knows a lot about that, but let's not talk about it.
So how many Barbies did you have growing up?
No, actually, I was shooting guns when I was growing up. So,
Oh my lord!
so I don't know what. This
Actually, I was too BB guns.
Yes.
We would have like the neighborhood kids because I was like it was myself and my sister and the rest were pretty much just boys in our neighborhood, so we were a little bit more like tomboys. And we had, I think I had a Beretta, and we had Berettas, we had Colts, we had like a few others.
Smith
And-
and Wesson. Smith and Wesson.
Well, no, I think that's a real gun.
No, you had a Smith.
Oh, did you get a BB gun like
Yes.
that? Okay. And like we would like hide on like opposite sides of each other's gardens, so you could shoot. But if you hit the person, it wasn't too painful. And I did like a colossal error. I had cocked the gun and I shot. But I was right by, I think I was by the kitchen or something. So the bullet went into
the
or
window.
the BB pellet went into the house. So my dad walks up to me and he's like, "This is how dangerous it is to shoot a gun like that." So he goes, click, click, and he goes, bah. So I was like, oh. So I actually had a BB gun pellets. But he was teaching me a lesson, but it was a very painful lesson. Don't shoot BB gun pellets close to the house or near to where your friends actually are. So yeah, we were also like you. But we were shooting BB guns. I'm quite a good shot. Don't mess with me.
To add to that as well, on a different note, I'm just thinking about the father of evolution. Was it the father of evolution or father of? Wait, what am I thinking? Let me think. Okay. Let me
Say the
rather-
name
yeah.
so I can.
Should I
correct
ask
you.
Google for you?
No.
Okay, Google.
It's
Who was
what's
the
his
father of
name?
evolution?
Charles Darwin.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, Charles Darwin. I thought you're gonna get it wrong.
No,
Nope, you're
I-
right. She's just confirmed
so it
Charles
is-
Darwin.
Okay. So yeah, so he's speaking about what evolution specifically in biological terms, going back to the adaptation of the finches on the Galapagos Islands. Forgive me, everybody, making a lot of errors here, but nonetheless.
No,
so,
I'm impressed so far.
so you're speaking about how birds would actually feed from their parents, and they needed to grow beaks in a specific way in order for them to adapt to the conditions, and the weak or the ones who actually did not adapt would die out because the feeding was became more difficult, and the ones who actually adapted were able to thrive, and that was now the process of natural selection. So the strong
of the fittest,
exactly, the strong was the
weakest.
Exactly. So coming back to the whole point of change and evolution, that just is a real life example of the importance of change and of sticking to the times, so to speak. However, like you said as well, there are different adapters. People would adapt differently, and I think certain people may be a bit slower, and that's also fine.
Yes.
What you guys were saying. So let's be cognizant of what's happening, but also
That's the exact word I was thinking, because I'm like, he just read my mind.
some call me Houdini, but that's a talk for another day. Some of our older generation people, they need that guidance. Although the phones get dropped at the same day, we all buy new phones today, but just for some reason they need a manual and another 2, 3, 4 people to sit by them and say, okay, this is how you do this is how you send a message. It's still the same, but just you find it differently. These are the icons that but then with us, we don't use no manuals. All we need is our opening tool, and we're like, okay, let's start playing around with it. Oh, did you know you can do this? Did you know you can do that? So just to that point,
I suppose like something like that, it's like the older generation, whereby, I mean, like, I know I'm very fortunate. I have a very patient husband, so he helps my parents when it comes to the technical stuff, because if I try and do it, I'm like, breathe. I'm like, I love you, mom. I love you, dad. I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Don't throttle them. They're not listening. And it's we, like you say, like, I've just got the same thing. And I'm like, mom, I've got the same thing as you. Just wait. I'm learning it, and then I'll come show you. But she'll be, it's that much longer to understand it. Yeah. But we were also, if you think about it, we were all brought up with computers. They weren't. I actually never had a computer at home until I was out of school. So I think in 2003 was the first time that my parents had a computer at home. And we had them at school, but we never actually had one at home. So you can understand, like, from an older generation, where to work with things that are technological, or where you got to like press a button and it goes ding, and they're like, I don't trust this.
Yeah, looks suspicious.
Yes, exactly. Or the best is, my mom will say to me, I got this email, it says that I won so much money. I'm like, Mom, don't click it. It's like, no, but there's like a Nigerian prince that he says he's giving me money. I'm like, Mom, don't click it. But she doesn't understand that whole thing.
Yeah. So
I was going to say, Mr. X-Man, I can see you thinking there was something there. His eyes did a twinkle.
No, I was also thinking of, the other day I was at my grand's place, and my grand's 88, and she's frail already. So there's this kid that she was in the room, and she looked at my gran and she said, I don't want to get old that old. I don't want to get old at all. And then I looked at her, I said to her, in what grade are you? I think she said she's in grade 1.
Okay.
I said, so what do you think when you do good at school, what happens? She said, I'm going to go to grade 2. I said, don't you think you're going to get old? And she just sat and she looked at me and she's like, I don't want to get old. I said, you're going to get old. So basically, so even the kids, she obviously saw the part where you frail, where you get frail, and she thought, I don't want to get old, I don't want to be frail. But not knowing that
there's the journey along the way.
There's
that
a
you're
journey,
going to love
yes.
people, you're going to lose people, you're going to have the most amazing experiences.
Exactly.
And the one who was in grade 1, they will understand how getting older is how you can experience that stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I mean, I don't think any of us, when you get it to a stage of where we are like old and frail, because I mean, like, that just, it sounds horrible, but I don't think any of us want to get there and not go like, woohoo, I had a jaw when I was younger. You don't only get there and be like, yeah, I should have done this. Or I should have done that. That was why I left and I went to England, because I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to get to a stage of my life where I go, I regret not doing it.
Yeah.
Actually reminds me of that movie. Don't ask me how I know the movie. 13 going on 30.
Yes, I know that one. It's a chick flick.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you know about the chick
chick
flick?
flick.
We spoke about it already.
I hope you didn't have tissues next to you.
That I also cannot confess to. I cannot confirm nor
That
deny.
reminds me of that other movie. Are those happy tears or those sad tears? No, was
Knows
it
it.
happy tissues or sad tissues?
I think he knows it. He's playing
That's why he's
hardball.
gonna go read
He's
that
just playing
chick.
hardball. He knows it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So you know, guys. I mean, a lot has been said here, and obviously, a topic of this magnitude, you have to also, treat it with a bit of empathy, and understanding, because for me, like, change can just come at any given moment in your life, and the adjustments can be as radical as possible, and sometimes they do not sit well within our immediate surroundings, so like if you could just think of yourself, maybe let's say you're just growing into your career and now you have to become like this important figure, right, where you're not just a human now, right? You can't just go out there and live life like everyone else, right?
You're responsible for other humans too.
You're responsible for other humans, and also like you are very restricted to locations you can go to because of whatever investments people have on you, right? So you have to always go around with people, right, guiding you, your entourage and whatever. And people may view that differently, as in like you changed, and yes, I've changed because like you don't understand my role, and my role could literally mean that I can just grow apart from people that I used to have access to, and how those people view it versus the reality of the situation is completely different. And anyone can just feel aggrieved by your sudden change, and that's what they say about famous people, right? They say famous people should actually be taught fame, because most of them actually experience it at first hand. As soon as they become famous, they're like, oh, this is how things are here, and sometimes it can be so overwhelming. Yeah, because now when you're famous, like if people just see you in a public place, they can either run up to you and try to like celebrate with you or celebrate you, and by so doing sometimes they can even like take your belongings. Let's say you've got like valuable stuff around your wrist and whatever, and because of that joy, but you don't understand all of those things, and some can
I don't
actually
think I would do well with that. I think I might deck somebody by accident, but it'll be like a
On
natural.
purpose, by accident.
Yeah, but it'll be
Your
like a natural
reflex.
reflex. Yeah, someone comes to me, hey, how's it? Bah! I'm so sorry. Like I'm really sorry. But it's because you, like saying, where people aren't used to that.
Yeah, it's like with Kanye, like at one point, like he was very struggling with paparazzi because they would just like
Swarming
run up
him.
to him, and yes, and it was so much for him, and you would actually recall him saying that I'm human, I'm just like everyone else, but no, that's not how we see you. You are different, you're not like everyone else. That's how they see you. And also, just besides people seeing you as different, just other people who are there for businesses, those guys are there to sell magazines. So those changes, if you don't understand them, right, so they can be so radical to the point that they can be to your detriment.
I think, sorry, there's something that you put on there, which was exactly what Kanye said, and there's something that we all need to be cognizant of, is that every single person we come into contact with, no matter who they are, whether they are a CEO, whether they are a receptionist, whether they are the person sweeping the floor, it doesn't matter who they are a person at the end of the day. And you should be able to talk to them and relate to them on a person-to-person level, and not and I mean, like, if you get someone who's like, well, I'm above you, and type of thing, then do you really want to carry on having a conversation with them? Sometimes you have to. If it's your boss, then then sorry for you, but it's something that's, we're all people. And we've all got hopes, dreams, aspirations, fears, and things that we love. And I suppose like maybe the biggest thing is that, and if you can get into a situation where it's a positive change, that you're changing towards something that you love and towards a person that you love. Because before anyone else can love you, you've got to love yourself.
Yeah, true. So I guess my closing words, before I hand over to you, Teresa, and X, I think you haven't also lamented on your closing words. So I guess my closing words are like, while, change is inevitable and it's good, but let's also be aware as people, right, around that certain change as well. Because like you said also, Mengel, that sometimes like you need time to process this change, right? And if it's becoming rapid, it can be a bit overwhelming as well. So we need to nurture change as it comes, right? And as a person that's always constantly evolving, I can say to you right now that sometimes I feel like I don't get to celebrate because I'm always on the next, on the next, on the next. And sometimes I need to relax a bit and say,
Take a step back.
yeah, take a step back. Let me appreciate more. Let me celebrate
absolutely.
more, right? So I think for me, like, this topic actually was more of a revelation, because it actually took me to, those heights where I can be able to also critique my constant evolution, right? And say sometimes it can be at your detriment, and you just don't want to be like that as well, because you have to enjoy every step of the way. So yeah. Back to you, Teresa.
Some powerful words there. And again, taking a leaf out of your book with being cognizant. Absolutely.
Plagiarism.
I think just again from the empathy side of it, I think some of the changes that we are seeing globally and that we are seeing in South Africa at the moment is the one of where we have to be very aware of people's feelings and emotions, is that we've all lost someone with this virus. We've all lost a family member, a friend, even a friend of a friend. I mean, it's not even a case of where it's like, it was my brother's friend's auntie's uncle's sister's, relative. It is, my friend has died. And if we're not aware of how people's emotions are, that's a massive change. Losing someone close to you is such a massive change. And what's sad though with this whole pandemic that's happened is that we've actually had to become, how would you say, almost immune to that change, immune to someone passing away.
It's a norm now.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you, and it's like when in the past, say if it was your parent that passed away, I mean, you would mourn, you would be able to take that time, you'd be able to, but like now there's just so many other people who are passing away, and there's no time for that change to actually, how would you say, like properly sink in and all the rest. And that's why there's a lot of depression that's happening at the moment. And also onset delayed how do you say reactions to someone passing away, because at the time that it happened there was just so many other deaths happening that you felt
couldn't
guilty.
process.
You felt guilty to process a death in the family. You felt guilty to process a friend passing away. And it's months later that all of a sudden it just hits people, and people are going, I don't understand. Like, no, well, my family member passed away, and they're like, yeah, but that was months ago, and people just haven't had that chance to process it. So that side of change as well, we just need to be cognizant of, aware of, and just I would say my closing would be kind. Be kind to everybody that you come across, because you just don't know what they going through, what their shoes are like today, walking in it.
True.
And your kindness could be the very change they need.
Exactly.
X-Men.
Yeah, I just Brian, on your point, I would just like to say, don't go with the flow, be the flow.
I like
Right.
Oh, that's nice.
Poet, and he didn't even know it.
Yeah,
Be that
so
salmon swimming up the stream, not down the stream.
yeah, so I think that's what we also need to do. Like, just be the flow and not go with the flow. And yeah, just continue evolving, and also now and then, there comes a point where, as you've mentioned, like, be cognizant of the next person. So let us also evolve with other people, because we need other people with us. You cannot evolve on your own. But if you evolve on your own and you way ahead, and the rest of the people or societies behind, and it's a lonely road.
I was just going to say,
Yeah, so-
a lot of times change, and also often positive change, can be a very lonely journey. But once you start getting, people to understand where your mindset's coming from, and that it's a positive change that you're looking at, then that lonely journey, you start getting some friends along the way,
Yeah,
but the right friends.
true. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Teressa. It was really a mind opening session and evolutionary session.
The BMX evolution.
Yeah.
Actually, Maurice, I have to say that with our show being broad and mindful,
Yes.
Teressa actually lived up to expectations. She was very broad without any second invitation. She just
That is true.
gelled in
That
as
is
well,
true.
because their stories were so broad, and then they just come back. So yeah, Teressa, it was actually great to have you around.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Can we have you on the next show, probably for fitness and healthy eating, nutrition?
Oh yeah,
perhaps?
that's an
Cool.
interesting
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
I'm keen. I'm in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll set something up. Thank you so much again, guys. The usual suspects. It was a pleasure. Until the next episode.
We
Peace
out.
Cheers.
Cheers.